Welcome to the Orlando Sentinel's candidate interview for Osceola County Commission District 3 with incumbent Commissioner Brandon Arrington, who defeated his Democratic opponent in the primary. Arrington was first elected to commission in 2008. He represents Osceola County on multiple boards, including serving as chairman of the Central Florida Expressway Authority Governing Board and as the Osceola rep on the Metro Plan Orlando and Orlando Economic Partnership boards. He's executive editor of Osceola Arts. We also have Libertarian candidate Eric Montgomery, a retired executive with AT&T who's working as a substitute teacher and described himself as a policy wonk. There's one more person in this race, Republican Fior Daliza Frias, who served on the City Commission of West New York, New Jersey before relocating to Osceola County. She has declined to meet with us. So I'd like to start in with the first question. I'd like to ask about growth management across the county. Do you believe that there are specific additional portions of the county where growth and municipal annexation should be limited, and where are they? And we will start with Mr. Arrington.
Thank you so much, Jay, for having me today. And Eric, thank you for joining us as well, and the Orlando Sentinel for giving us this opportunity once again to engage with voters. Growth management is one of the biggest issues that we as county commissioners deal with here in the state of Florida. And fortunately, Osceola County has seen how growth has impacted us. So we have made the necessary steps to beginning to plan our growth out to the year 2080. So that's planning growth for the next 60 years. And we've done that in a myriad of ways. First, there are several DRIs along the east side of Lake Toho that have been master planned from roughly about 2006 that take in over 100 to 200,000 people in population that are well-defined, gridded with mixed-use communities, but also preserving our lakefront as well for environmental purposes. And then we've also taken that same practice up to the Northeast Ranch, working with the Deseret Ranch to plan that growth once again out to the year 2080 with mixed-use communities that have well-planned connectivity and interconnectivity as well. And so we've done a lot, but with all that, the biggest thing I could say that we did is protecting over 2/3 of our community with the urban growth boundary. Having that designation outside of the urban growth boundary for over 2/3 of our community, once again, helps keep our heritage of ranching and farming history here in Osceola County, but also helps continue to protect the ecosystem that is so important and so biodiverse here in our community as well. Obviously, there's so much watershed opportunity on the east side of our community, and that's why it's so important to continue to protect the stuff outside of our urban growth boundary. We continue to work with CFX to create a beltway, once again, around our urban growth boundary to help move our community as it grows into the year 2080. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. Mr. Montgomery, same question about growth management.
As Commissioner Arrington has indicated, the growth in Osceola County is at a very fast pace. And what I struggle with, and the area I live in we struggle with, is the current traffic and the traffic load on the current streets. How to manage the new growth and backfill the infrastructure build out that's been lacking in third district is one of my concerns. The planning to look forward to where we need to be in 2080 is solid. I think the details of how we get there may need some work. We may need to work with our state partners to update the legislation to allow us to have a better method of ensuring the growth is in the right place at the right time. I'm not against growth. Most residents in the county are not against growth. We're concerned about how the growth is happening without the support of the road infrastructure. The big part of what's hitting the District 3 and is a concern to our residents in District 3 is the CFX beltway that's going along the south boundary of the district. The paths that are currently being talked about seem to me to be going through already developed or town center, and I'm not sure if the planners have looked at all the options. I don't know if that's because some of the options are outside of Osceola County and it's not in the footprint of where the beltway can go, or not, but I think we need to step back for a minute and make sure that we're making a decision that will support the county and the traffic through 2080 and on. And I'm concerned that we're not taking all the considerations of the current residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And that actually branches a bit into my next question, which you touched on. Critics have said that the Osceola Parkway extension, which would cut through Split Oak Forest, is not needed for current residents, but would mostly serve a few major land interests who plan very large housing communities on what's now ranch land and timber. Do you believe that this is accurate? And if so, do you believe this would constitute sprawl? And Mr. Montgomery, we'll start this one with you.
So to me, the growth, it will support growth, but like I indicated in my previous answer, for third district, I think we're behind the curve on building that infrastructure. It shouldn't take residents 30, 40 minutes just to get to Kissimmee. We need to find a better way to get that traffic up to where the work is. We have many residents that work in Orlando in the parks, in Kissimmee. I'm a full-time teacher now, and I work at OTEC, and my drive to work is 30 minutes at 6:30 in the morning, but coming back from that area anytime after 2, it's an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes. So we have some existing issues that we need to deal with. So I don't think the Parkway is just going to help future growth. I think it's going to help alleviate some of the current traffic issues, making sure we may have the path in the right place for current traffic and future traffic, and the future where we want our community is important. And as Commissioner Arrington did talk about, we have environmental concerns. There's a lot of watershed areas and a lot of wetlands in the part of the county that we're talking about. So wherever we put the path, wherever we put those roads, the Parkway and the county framework roads are going to have to cross Reedy Creek. They're going to be too close to Lake Toho. So we have to be very careful to ensure that we do it in an environmentally sound way and a forward-looking way to ensure that infrastructure will support the growth and the current traffic needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arrington. Same question about Split Oak and serving developers, and do you believe this would constitute sprawl? Same question for you.
Thank you, sir. And no, I do not. As I just laid out before, our urban growth pattern for the next 60 years encompasses the area that these folks have talked about. It is actually a well laid out community. And as Eric mentioned, we have serious traffic needs in Osceola County today, not 20 years from now, not 40 years from now, but today. And for Osceola County to continue to be a competitive community and have the same opportunities that Orange County have, Seminole County have, or Lake County have, we need to have a beltway around our community that helps move our community as well as our goods and services. And for all the folks that have dealt with Split Oak, I appreciate their passion and their energy they bring towards trying to protect our environment. I just believe differently on what environment we should be protecting. I believe if the alternate route that was proposed is actually more environmentally damaging because it's a bigger roadway and it's impacting natural ecosystems that were not man-made. And I say that because sometimes we forget that Split Oak Forest was once upon a time a scrub field where they had planted pine trees and cleared it all the way down to the sand. And then with investment and human interaction, we rebuilt that forest into the ecosystem it is today. Whereas I had a lot more concern over our private landowners who weren't interested in selling CFX, the properties, who weren't interested in losing their homes, and were not interested in having those natural ecosystems, 100-year-old oak hammocks, impacted and destroyed for the roadway. It's never easy to build a new road, as you can see, not only whether it's building Osceola Parkway or it's even the extension of Point Siena Parkway that's going to play such a pivotal role to our community. But we in Osceola County need improvements in our transportation. That's why we're working so hard to build over $5 billion worth of investments in our community over the next 5 years with DOT, CFX, Osceola County as well as the Turnpike Enterprise as well. But even with that $5 billion, We still need about another $1 billion worth of construction to get us up to date. Thank you.
Thank you both. And I have one more question about growth, bits that you guys have touched on a little bit that I'm hoping we can dig a little deeper on. Concurrency is another growth-related issue. Do you think that the county is doing a good job of matching growth to the availability of schools and other resources? Does the commission need to work with the school board and others to identify areas where resources are needed to support growth? And we'll start with Mr. Arrington on that one.
Thank you, Jay. You know, growth is, as we all know, is of major importance. We have over 1,500 people moving to Central Florida every week. And that's important. It's a challenge for us to keep up with, but it's also an opportunity for us to be able to grow with as well. And unfortunately, you know, you use the word concurrency. That actually used to be in place in the state of Florida until Rick Scott, while he was governor, did away with concurrency for local development. He also did away with regional planning councils and how they're able to impact our community. And the same way, our governor, Ron DeSantis, has also created authority over local government when it comes to construction. And we can look at that just through our tree ordinance that was created here in Osceola County to once again to try and protect our environment and protect our natural ecosystems. We put that into place, and a year later, our governor signed into law a bill that overrode local government and their job to try and protect our environment. Unfortunately, Tallahassee is not a cooperative partner with local government when it comes to growth. It is probably one of our biggest challenges, and we can look at that through the lens of mobility fees as well, where Osceola County just voted to once again increase our mobility fees to the highest fees in the entire state of Florida to be able to make sure development pays its fair share when it comes into our community. And unfortunately, we mentioned schools. There again, I'm going to go back to Tallahassee, continually working to underfund public education at every turn. And that's where we really have to put our focus when we want to talk about development or education. We really need the state to have the state give the authority back to local government and stop overriding us for their own personal agendas.
Thank you very much. Mr. Montgomery, same question.
Growth is a difficult issue. It will always cause disruption. How the different levels of government work together to ensure that it's good for everybody, as many people as possible, is the best solution is a difficult issue. There is some language in the statute about measured growth that I don't think has been tested by the county to ensure that the growth happens where the infrastructure growth is happening currently. And I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a state level statute expert, but I think we need to push the county staff to ensure that we're getting every benefit we can from what's available in the statute to ensure that the growth of the population is at the same time that we grow the infrastructure. And as Commissioner Arrington did indicate, we have two competing interests. That we have the state interest that seems to be going contradicting or pushing the local decisions to the state. And I think the closer the decision is to the where it's happening, the better. So local is better. So how do we get the two camps working together? It's a Republican state and a Democrat county. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we ensure that we're working together, that our viewpoints from Osceola County, which I think if you ask anybody that's lived in the county, it's pretty much we have the same outlook and same issues. How do we get those issues addressed by the state? As an outsider, I think I may have a chance of trying to bridge that gap. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to jump over and talk about consolidation. Do you see opportunities to save money for the county by consolidation of services between the county and its cities, either through expanding city service areas to cover unincorporated land or through things like unitary, fire, EMS, or law enforcement services? And we'll start with Mr. Montgomery for that.
The more bureaucracy you put in place, the more expensive it is, and the further the decisions are made from the taxpayer and the voters. So I'm in favor of keeping cities and towns having that control over the local fire department, the local police department. Sometimes consolidation does make sense, whether it's a regional rail system or regional infrastructure for major roads, but local cities, I think, are a better solution. I grew up in a town in New Jersey that only had 1,700 dwelling units. They had a school, they had K through 8 that they were responsible for. They had a police department, a volunteer fire department. We handled it pretty well. So I think cities can do a good job. They're next to the voters. They listen to what is important to them. So I even think Poinciana needs to become a town. I think there's not enough towns in Osceola County. I think you have the Kissimmee and St. Cloud. I think there needs to be another town to handle the growth where the growth is going to happen. So I am truly in favor of keeping the decisions closest to the voters and the people using the services as possible.
Thank you for that. Mr. Arrington, what's your view?
I think consolidation is great whenever you can make it work. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times, and I hate to say this, government entities, don't want to lose control over what they may have, and that makes consolidation a challenge. And I bring this up because since I've been a commissioner, at least for the last 12 years, I have been working to try and consolidate our 911 service here in Osceola County. This is a real problem. And I say this because I will never forget, I was at a ribbon cutting for a dog park in between Kissimmee and St. Cloud, just on the edge of St. Cloud. A fellow commissioner, Ken Smith, had a vertigo issue and fell down at the park. When I called 911, they said, sorry, this is St. Cloud. We need to transfer you to the Osceola County 911 service. And I was just befuddled. The idea that I would be transferred and not automatically be responded to and assisted and helped because I was just over an invisible line to most of our citizens just made no sense. So I've continued and I will continue to try and consolidate those efforts because I don't believe when you call 911, you should be transferred. You should be able to speak to a representative, and that representative should be able to provide the assistance you need at that moment. But unfortunately, we've had challenges, and whether those challenges are from elected officials or whether those challenges are from hired law enforcement folks, it has been a real struggle here in our community. And I think that is a key opportunity, once again, to consolidate and improve service to here in our community. And I think consolidation is also an opportunity when you look at the fees we charge and also the way we look at designing and developing communities as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to a bit of talk about conservation. Conservation leaders say that the county has more environmentally sensitive land that's facing development pressure than any other county in the state. Do you support the county's land purchase program, which has to date protected 3,300 acres and is on the ballot again this year? We'll start with Mr. Arrington for that one.
Yes, I'm emphatic, and I'm very excited that this program is back on the ballot. This is a great way for our community to purchase some of those lands that we may not want developed inside of our urban growth boundary. And as you said, Jay, it has been a very successful program. I was just out on one of our parks not too long ago, actually shooting a video on horseback, talking about the benefits of this program. And I hope the voters will get behind it once again and support it and continue it on, because with the development pressures that we face from the state, because a lot of people don't realize there are population projections established and set on communities and counties by the state of Florida. And we're expected to live up and meet those population projections. And this program allows us to, once again, try and maybe protect some of that property that otherwise could be developed through a private land sale. So I'm very excited for this program. And we've even talked about what those funds could maybe look like and be utilized for next. And some of it we've talked about is maybe amenitizing some of the lakefront areas that we're setting off in conservation with the new development that's proposed on the east side and as well up in the Northeast Ranch as well.
Thank you for that. Mr. Montgomery, what's your view?
We live in one of the most beautiful areas of the state, and having a conservation plan and funding it by the will of the people is great. We have a deficit of parks in third district. So developing those conservation areas into parks and amenities that the residents can use should also be part of the plan. And as a third district commissioner, I would make sure that third district assets will be available and be able to be used by the citizens in our community. Determining if a piece of property that's been put into conservatorship or into a park and moving it back into development, I think should take the vote of the people. I don't think we should allow elected officials the luxury to decide what to do. Once it's been purchased or identified as a conservation site or a park site, to move it out of those two categories into a residential or commercial property, I think should go to the vote. I think the people in the county should be able to speak on the issue. So conservation, yes. And we should put our money where our mouth is as a community and buy those properties to do that. So kind of splitting between the two, I think, but I think the commission has good intentions. I'm just not sure I trust elected officials. Even if I'm elected, I don't trust me either to make these decisions without the support of the community and the voters to move it away out of the conservation or park category.
Great. Thank you for that. Wanted to jump over and talk about affordable housing for a minute. There are a lot of affordable housing projects on the books, but a lot of them are going to take place inside city limits. And given that, what can the county do at the county level to bolster the supply of workforce housing to make it easier on the county's legions of hospitality workers? We'll start with Mr. Montgomery for that one.
So libertarians are free market. The less regulation, the better. I'm not for no regulation. Like I just discussed about conservation and parklands, we need to make sure that once we designate it, it is used for that purpose. I prefer organic growth and change would allow for the workforce housing. In this huge accelerated growth and high cost for homes, I don't see that as happening. So I believe we should try to do public-private joint ventures, and if the county funds it in a footprint in St. Cloud or Kissimmee, you would have to work with those town governments to do that. So it's going to be something we have to do together. We have to build those relationships and those bonds and do it. I don't think the county forcing it on a city is a workable long-term solution. We have to make it so that our goals align, and it may take time, it may take effort, but we need to do that because workers do need places to live that are close to where they work. Right now, a lot of those people that work in the parks live in Poinciana, and it's just too far away. Too much traffic load on the infrastructure. So it's a snowball effect. If you don't have homes close to the work sites, you're putting more traffic on the road, causing more traffic, and the workers spending more time on the road than they need to be. And that also impacts negatively the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arrington. Your thoughts on affordable housing and how the county can help.
Yeah, sure. The county's taken a lot of measures actually to work on affordable housing here in our community. Over the last 8 years, we've invested over $28 million in exactly what Eric had mentioned in 3 Ps, public-private partnerships, where we worked with private developers where Osceola County had either purchased land or had land available, where we worked with those developers to go through the state tax process using the Sadowski funds to build affordable housing. And through that process and those investments, we've been able to build over 1,000 units here in Osceola County. 1,000 units sounds like a lot, but literally it's a drop in the bucket for what the need is here. And what we've also done is we've looked at how we build and encourage builders to change a variation of product. Not everybody needs a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house here in our community. We need a lot more garden apartments, fourplexes, smaller. One of the greatest opportunities I really think that we've pushed is promoting ancillary dwelling units here in our community. This is a way for a family who has that lives in a community that can build for instance, a garage apartment to create an opportunity for an affordable housing unit and be able to recruit money back for them to help pay for their own mortgage as well. So we're building wealth in our property owners and creating affordable housing for our other community members as well. Another thing that we've really fought hard on is, once again, is lobbying our state to make sure they fully fund the Sadowski funds. For years and years, the state would continue to raid those funds in order to fill the gaps in some other personal project that they had an agenda for. And if we continue to if we would have funded those adequately, like we should have over the last decade, Florida would have a lot more affordable housing as well here in our community. But it's important to continue to work with our cities, because those are a lot more denser areas that are on those confined corridors that really promote mass transit opportunities for our employees as well. Thank you.
Thank you both. Wanted to branch over and ask, does Osceola County have an adequate network of resources for mental health and healthcare needs? And what more can the county do to help? And we'll start with Mr. Arrington.
Thank you, Jay. You guys asked me this question in the primary, and I will give you the same answer I gave you then. And the answer is no. No community in the state of Florida that I'm aware of has the adequate resources to deal with the mental health issues in the state of Florida. And I say that because last year, the state of Florida was 50th in funding for mental health. And I believe this year we've made some great advancements, and we've made it all the way to 47th. And that's important because mental health issues do not know county lines. And that's where the state funding is so important, to be able to help fill some of those backstops to create that network of care that's needed. One of the things that I'm proud that we as a commission have done is work with our mental health providers and also our law enforcement agencies in the city of Kissimmee and our sheriff's office. And that's by creating a mental health personnel that can help respond to situations where a mental health counselor is better suited to deal with the issue than a law enforcement officer. And that's important, because law enforcement officers not necessarily trained how to deal with mental health issues when they see it in front of them. And perhaps that's not what that individual needs either. And so that's why we created this program and have helped fund that opportunity, because really we don't want to arrest someone who's having a mental health breakdown, when in fact they really should be going to a facility and being Baker acted and receiving the services they need. So we've worked with Park Place Behavioral Center to create that diversion opportunity and also create that counseling opportunity as well. But even with that, it's still a drop in the bucket, and we have a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Montgomery, same question about mental health care in the county.
Yeah, before I do that, I want to backtrack a little bit on low-income housing. The impact fee structure is based on the type of unit, and I'm not sure it handles well if it's a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment or site. So maybe looking into maybe adjusting the impact fee structure so it can help. If it is a one heartbeat home, it's not paying the full impact fee. That some 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom with the possibility of multiple people living there and having multiple impacts on the roads and traffic and trips. On mental health, I think it's a struggle the entire country is having, determining how to adequately provide government-supported healthcare services to those people in need. When I did a ride-along with the Sheriff's Department late last year, it was surprising to me how many of those visits that we did that day, how many of those dispatches were joint with the fire department, and how many of them were that it did involve a mental issue or a drug abuse issue or any of the other drivers that revolve around mental health and addiction. How many of those issues do feed into the dispatch count and the manpower and what the police department is using, and they're not a resource that is fully trained or funded to do that. I'm not sure of a solution. I think some of the things we're doing are helping. It may be a funding issue, and people don't like to hear that. But if we need to fund it, we need to fund it, and we need to find a way to fund it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. County Manager Don Fisher has been on the job since 2010. Simple question. Are you satisfied with his performance, Mr. Montgomery?
All the interactions I've had with county staff have been professional. They do their best. I really don't have a bad thing to say about the county staff and how they do their work. What rules and regulations that are in place that they have to follow, or they have to to adhere to, maybe those need changes. In the commission meetings that I attend, he seems very professional and he seems very detail oriented. I don't see an issue with him. So longevity in commissioners, on the other hand, maybe it's time for a change in view or a new blood, new ideas coming in. I think 8, 16, 20 years, I think that's too long. Is 14 years too long for a county manager? I'm not sure. Is the county manager not looking at fresh and new ideas? I think Mr. Fisher is. So I think we're okay there, but reviewing staff and where we are is something that should be an ongoing role of the commission. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Arrington, same question.
Thank you. I think our county manager embodies Osceola County, and the fact that longevity has really served us well in our community. And whether that's the length of our commissioners or the length of our county manager, it has really allowed us to keep a consistent course. And Eric said fresh and new, and I actually love those words, because I think that completely shows and illustrates what Osceola County is. How we are fresh and new, how we are the only community in the nation that provides free college education to every graduating high school senior, whether you're homeschooled, private schooled, or go to our public schools. We're the only community in the entire nation that has a Department of Defense contract where we're working to help secure not only our economy for the future, but also secure America by working to develop the next wave of sensor technology right here in Osceola County, so we can make sure our computers, our aircraft, our light systems, our water systems are safe and secured, because they are filled with computer chips that are built here, right here in Osceola County. And so we are fresh and new, and I think Dawn has done a fantastic job. And I would go so far to say that my other employee, because the county commission only hires 2 employees. We have a county attorney and a county manager. And Frank, our county attorney, is also a great personnel member. And we do have a great team. I think Eric's comments about our staff at the county are spot on. We have a professional group of diverse employees with probably, my goodness, 70% of the directorships, and I could be wrong on that percentage, don't quote me, in Osceola County are held by women and other minority populations. Don has done a great job of making his staff look like our community. So kudos to him, and kudos to all of Osceola County employees.
Thank you for that. And one of the programs you touched on was my next question. The Osceola Prosper program, as you mentioned, gives Osceola high school graduates free tuition at a state college or technical school. Do you believe it's accomplishing what the county intended? And is it worth the money that taxpayers are spending on it? And we will start with Mr. Arrington on that.
Thank you so much. Yes and yes. It is worth the investment, because I believe the greatest investment we can make in our community is in our kids. And it's a twofold reason, right? One, because we want them to have the opportunities of success that so many of us have got to achieve here in the United States. And second is I am looking to build the best world-class employment opportunities that we can create here in Osceola County. And if I have a higher skilled workforce, I'm able to attract higher paying jobs and lift everybody in Osceola County. And is it working? Well, yes, it is. Because within our first year of data that's being reported back, Osceola County went from 61st in the state of Florida in post-secondary education to 4th. That's in the first year of running this program. And that's huge, because once again, we have a very diverse population here. A lot of kids who are first generation college or post-secondary education goers, period. So this program is really not only helping to lift them up, but my hope is it creates a generational shift for our community going forward, where our kids know, families know that Osceola County is committed to the success of them, and especially the success of their children. And I think it's also been really beneficial to us because we've been awarded over $500 million in federal contracts over the last 3 years. And every time we bring a federal panelist to our community, the thing they are shocked most about in Osceola County is how our pipelines for success in employment, and whether that's where Valencia, UCF, or our school district, we have really created a network that allows our children to be successful, not for tomorrow and not just get a job, but really create a career. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Montgomery, same question about Osceola Prosper.
I may be biased. My daughter is partaking in the program, so it's hard to be against it. So I like the program. What I especially like about the program is it's not geared to people that are going on to a 4-year degree. I'm teaching cybersecurity OTech this year. So not everybody is going to complete a 4-year degree. And I like that the Osceola Prosper will train the truck drivers, will train the mechanics, will train the plumbers, the electricians, as well as prepare those people that weren't quite ready to go to a 4-year college right out of high school to do 2 years with the support from home and complete that associate's degree and then move on to a 4-year college. So it's very flexible for the folks that are using it. And that's, to me, that's key. If it was just putting people into a 2-year associate's degree that was intended to lead them on to a college degree, I don't know if I could support it. But because it's helping all of the trades and all the possible future paths that our young people in the county are ready to follow, that's why I like it. So it's a great program. We need to keep funding it. Is it as good as it can be, or some kids not completing? Maybe, but you have that with every program. So has anybody really spoken out against it besides the cost? Maybe. I think it's a good investment, and I think it's helping those students become ready, career ready, whatever that career is going to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we've come to the end of our questions. We're going to move ahead to closing statements in a minute. But first, I had a message for our viewers and readers. We will be making a recommendation in this race, but we ask that you please not use us as your only source of information. All 3 candidates have excellent social media presences, websites. There's plenty of other places to look to hear more about their views, including the excellent news coverage in the Sentinel. And we're coming up soon on Election Day. So the most important thing is, whether it's early voting or vote by mail, just please vote on or before November 5th. And thank you both again for being here. We'd like to move ahead to closing statements. And Mr. Montgomery, we'll start with you.
So one correction from the very beginning. I wasn't an executive at AT&T. I was a middle manager. Okay, so if you could correct that, that would be great. I don't think I ever implied that I was. I worked on many large projects at AT&T, and I worked a lot with quality control processes, making sure systems and people are doing what needs to be done to finish the mission, to complete the project, to complete the product. I like to think I would bring that focus to the county commission, that we don't reinvent the wheel every day. We don't reinvent new things. We ensure that what we're doing is effective, efficient, and the best product for the lowest cost. Whether that product is trash pickup or expanding Poinciana to 4 lanes, or as Mr. Arrington will, I'm a big advocate of extending Carr Street from the Poinciana villages to Poinciana. It's going through environmentally sensitive lands, so it'll be expensive, but that alone will alleviate traffic in our area, in the southern end of the district. And it'll give us emergency routes. It'll give us alternate routes. It'll give us, when we're extending Poinciana Parkway, the Beltway, it'll give us an alternate route for those residents while they're building along Cypress Parkway, wherever they're building along it, to continue to work and carry out their everyday lives. So I advocate some things very strongly where I think we need government involvement. Other items, whether it's personal lives, I don't think we should be interfering with the ability of, let's say, a Publix changing the way they have their carts set up so that they can't be used off-site. It's a rumor. I haven't had time to check it out, but I'm understanding they're waiting for the county to approve their change. And that's having carts is a minor issue, but it's a big issue because it degrades the community. So regulation where it's needed, where it's not needed, reduce it or eliminate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Arrington, would you close us out?
Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you for having me. And Eric, thank you for joining us as well. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your county commissioner for these past several years. And working together with my fellow county commissioners and our citizens, we've been able to make amazing strides. And whether that's bringing Sunrail to the station, creating an expressway that's going to connect our community to I-4, 429, and to the Turnpike and beyond back up to the airport, or whether that's the creation and partnering to create Neo City and working to bring high-paying, high-wage jobs to our community, or our partnership with the school district to create Neo City High, which is being expanded as we speak, to create a hallmark school right here in our community that has been nationally recognized. Once again, giving our kids the opportunity they deserve to get a world-class education, to get world-class jobs. As your commissioner, I promise to continue to do those things, continue to bring Osceola prosper and make that a reality, not only for the class of 2024 and the other classes we've done, but continuing that on here in Osceola County. I mentioned earlier, we have over $5 billion worth of construction on roadway improvements here in our community to help us improve our commute. We all know the challenges we face on a daily basis, but fortunately, working with my fellow commissioners and our partners, we've been able to make those improvements, and we'll be seeing them over the next 4 years. So once again, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve my community, my hometown, where I grew up farming on the side of the road and selling watermelons as a kid with my grandfather, to where I met my wife on the first day of high school. I love Osceola County, and with your help and support and vote, we can continue to work together to make Osceola County the world-class community it deserves to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And gentlemen, thank you both for your time. Thank you both for sharing your views, and wish you both good luck as we move forward to Election Day in November.